Dear students, I welcome all of you to the last session of our 30th chapter, Breach of Contract and Remedies. The main points that we're going to discuss today are liquidated damages and penalty. Then, what are the difference between liquidated damages and penalty? Then, suit upon quantum merit. And the second last topic, suit for specific performance of the contract. And the last one, suit for injunction. Liquidated damages and penalty. Sometimes parties to a contract at the time of its formation mention that a particular sum is payable by the party committing the breach. This predetermined sum may either be liquidated damages or penalty. So what is liquidated damages and penalty? These are the predetermined sum which is payable by the party who is committing breach in a contract. If any of the party is committing a breach, they have to pay a particular sum which is predetermined while at the time of forming the contract. It can be either liquidated damages and penalty. So what is liquidated damage? Liquidated damages are the genuine pre-estimate of the probable loss. It is an estimation of the probable loss. It is the amount agreed in between the parties in case of breach of contract. So it is predetermined at the time of forming the contract. If one party is making breach of contract, they have to pay a particular sum. That pre-estimate of the probable loss is called liquidated damages. It is agreed in between the parties at the time of formation of a contract. And what are the objectives of liquidated damages? What is the main purpose? The very first one is to avoid uncertainties of the amount of damages. In order to avoid the uncertainties regarding damages, liquidated damages are agreed between the parties. Then to avoid the expense for providing damages in the court. So these are the main objectives of liquidated damages. Liquidated damages are the genuine pre-estimate of the probable loss. It is agreed between the parties. The next term is penalty. Penalty is a sum named in the contract at the time of formation which is disproportionate to the damage likely to occur as a result of breach. Penalty is also a sum which is fixed at the time of formation of a contract. Main feature is that it is disproportionate to the damage that likely to occur or that likely to occur as a result of breach. It is not appropriate to the damage that caused as a result of breach. For example, X contracts with Y that if X practices as an advocate within Calicut, he will pay Y rupees 25,000. Later, X practice as an advocate in Calicut. Here, Y is entitled to such compensation, not exceeding rupees 25,000 as the court considers reasonable. It is fixed for securing the performance of the contract. Then what are the difference between liquidated damages and penalty? Liquidated damages are fair and genuine pre-estimate of the probable damages that might occur as a result of breach of contract. As we discussed, liquidated damages are genuine pre-estimate of the probable loss, while penalty is not an estimate of damages. Then the second difference is liquidated damages are awarded by way of compensation. It is given in the form of a compensation, whereas penalty is imposed by way of punishment. Then the third difference is that the main purpose of liquidated damages is to avoid uncertainty, while the main objective or main purpose of penalty is preventing a party from breach of contract. So these are the main difference between liquidated damages and penalty. Liquidated damages are fair and genuine pre-estimate of the probable loss, while penalty is not an estimate of damages or loss. Then liquidated damages are awarded or given by way of compensation, while penalty is imposed by way of punishment. It is a punishment. Liquidated damages, the main purpose of liquidated damages is to avoid uncertainty, while the main purpose of penalty is preventing a party from breach of contract. In the previous class, we have discussed about the different remedies for breach of contract. There are mainly 5 remedies. The very first one is rescission of the contract, and the second one is suit for damages, and the third remedy is suit upon quantum merit. So we are going to discuss about the third remedy. The first two was already discussed in the previous class. What is suit upon quantum merit? The term quantum merit means as much as earned or in proportion to the work done. So the meaning of the term quantum merit is proportion to the work done. That is, when a person had done some work under a contract and the other party repudiates the contract, or some event happens which makes the further performance of the contract impossible, then the party who has performed the work can claim for remuneration for the work he has already done. That is called a suit upon quantum merit. Simply, if two parties are entering into a contract and one person or one party had done some work under the contract, but at the same time the other party cancels the contract or some event happens, after that the performance of the contract become impossible. In this situation, the party who has done the work, they can claim for remuneration for the work they had done. That's called a suit upon quantum merit. Then claim for quantum merit. Uh, Claim for quantum merit arises in the following cases. The first case is when contract is found to be void. When a contract is discovered to be unenforceable for some technical reasons, any person who has received any advantage under such contract is bound to restore it or to make compensation for it to the person from whom he received the advantage. Let me explain through an example. Example, M is employed as a managing director by a company under a written contract. M is employed as a managing director by a company under a written contract. After some time, it is found that the contract is void because the directors who appointed M were found to be unqualified. Here in this case, M is entitled to remuneration for the said period because he has already worked there. So he is entitled to get remuneration for the said period on the basis of quantum merit because it was not the mistake of M. So when a contract is found to be void, any person who has received any advantage under such contract is bound to restore it or to make compensation for it. Then second case is when something is done without any intention to do so gratuitously. If where a person does some work for or delivers something to another person with the intention of receiving payments for the same, then such other person is bound to make payment if he accepts such service or goods or enjoys their benefit. For example, a poor boy who cleans the car of B, to which act B does not object. So B is not objecting the cleaning process. Here, A is entitled. A is a poor boy who cleans the car of B, to which act B does not object. Here, A is entitled for a reasonable payment because B is not objecting that task. So, when something is done without any intention to do gratuitously, they are entitled to get remuneration for the work they done. Third case is when a contract is divisible. When a contract is divisible and the party not in default has enjoyed the benefit of the part of performance, the party in default may sue on contumacious. Example: a contractor to deliver 500 bags of cement to B before 1st October. But he delivered only 200 bags of cement before the date and none after. Here B retained the cement. Here A is entitled to receive the price of 200 bags as they have been accepted by B, even though A is guilty for non-performance of the contract. So when a contract is divisible, in that circumstances, the party in default may sue contumacious. In this case, B accepted the 200 bags of cement. Here, A is entitled to receive the price of 200 bags as they have been accepted by B, even though A is guilty for non-performance of the contract. Then, when one party abandons or refuses to perform the contract. When a party of a contract performs as a part of the contract but refuses it without completing to perform the remaining part, then the other party can claim for compensation. For example, A engaged B, a doctor, to write in the health magazine published by a monthly at a fee of rupees 15,000. After few issues, the monthly abandoned. In this case, B could recover on contumacious for the work he had done under the contract. So, a party can claim compensation for the work done on the basis of contumacious. Then, the last case where when an indivisible contract is performed badly. When an indivisible contract for a lump sum has been completely performed but badly, the person performing is entitled to claim the whole amount, but the other party can make a deduction for bad work. Let me explain. A agrees to decorate B's jewelry shop for a lump sum of rupees 60,000, payable on completion in accordance with a certain laid down requirements. A completes the work, but B complains of faulty workmanship which can be rectified for rupees 12,000. In this case, A can recover 6,000 less 12,000 from B. So, again I am repeating. The person who is performing is entitled to claim the whole amount, but the other party can make a deduction if any bad work is done. The fourth method or fourth remedy for breach of contract is suit for specific performance of the contract. In certain cases, damages are not an adequate remedy for the breach of the contract. In such circumstances, the court directs the defaulting party to carry out specific performance of the contract specifically. So, when damages are not an adequate remedy or adequate solution, in that cases, the court may decide or court may direct the defaulting party to carry out the performance of the contract. They have to perform the contract instead of giving damages. The last remedy for breach of contract is suit for injunction. Injunction is a court order. In case of breach of contract, an injured party can under certain circumstances get a negative injunction, that's an order prohibiting a party from doing something. So, injunction is a court order. It prohibits a party from doing something. It is usually granted to enforce the negative stipulations in case where damages are not an adequate relief to the other party. For example, N, who is a film actress, agreed to act exclusively for W for a year and for no one else. N is a film actress who agreed to act exclusively for W for a year and for no one else. And during that year, she contracted to act for Z. Held, she could be restrained by injunction from doing so. So it is a negative injunction. It is an order prohibiting a party from doing something. It is enforced where damages are not adequate relief. So these are the different remedies for breach of contract: rescission of the contract, suit for damages, suit upon quantum merit, then suit for specific performance of the contract, and suit for injunction. Rescission of the contract means cancellation of the contract. Suit for damages means the other party can claim for damage. Suit upon quantum merit means if any party has performed, if one of the party has performed any work under the contract, and after some times the contract become impossible, in that case the other party can the other party is entitled to get the remuneration for the work he had done. Then suit for specific performance of the contract, which means it is enforced where damages are not inadequate. The other party have to, the party who has committed breach of contract, they have to perform the contract. Then suit for injunction is a court order. It prohibits a party from doing something. Thank you.